Go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope I will wake up during this presentation because this morning I'm a bit on jet lag. Don Lemon asked me to replace him, and it's a tough challenge because he knows much better than me what is going on with the coastal assessment. I will talk a little bit about this project of NRCan. I guess some of you already know pretty much how this have been going through, but if you find that I'm saying stupid things, you correct me. So,
just to say, Aaron, are you hearing Jean-Pierre okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
So the outlines of the presentation, science assessment, the background of it, why and what is the marine coastal assessment. A few initial ideas that have been discussed during previous meetings, objective approach, initial feedback from scoping workshop, and then I think I will talk for maybe 15 minutes, but I will spend the next half hour to collect questions and try to answer the best I can. So your input is very appreciated. So the science assessment is it's a collective process, that we try to obtain an expert review of the situation for the coastal zone of Canada. And Natural Resource Canada, they are quite interested to facilitate adaptation of Canadian population. And so this is not a literature review. This is not a policy document. It's neither is it a best practice type of document. It's basically a scientific report that is reviewing the existing knowledge on the coastlines with a critical point of view, and it's focusing on the on issues that are relevant for adaptation. So this is something that we have to keep in mind when we try to build that document. We want to stay, we don't want to have something 500-page thick that is reviewing existing knowledge, because we will never get through it. The few examples of processes that have been done in the past, probably most of you have heard about the 2008 climate change assessment, impact and adaptation produced by NRCan. It was a very extensive process, a number of authors, 145 contributing authors, large number of reference being reviewed, and also a very extensive reviewing process. The lesson learned is the approach and the structure depend on the goal on the assessment. And this is very critical to keep track of that goal, or we can lose ourselves in these things. Stakeholders provide critical advice and serve as champion. So this type of process has to be done in cooperation with stakeholders. And the process can be as important as the product. So we all learn when we do that, because that gives us a very good opportunity to exchange and discuss things among ourselves. So the process is guided to some extent. As we progress in doing that, we improve our global knowledge, and this is important to keep in mind. So to be successful, coastal assessment have to keep to target on three main points. It have to be relevant. It's very important that we have a kind of a target readers, if I can say, and we and we keep staying on that track. It has to be credible. This is why we rely on experts, and we will have tough choice. It's difficult as experts to, especially when we talk about the future, to be precise. We have to cope with uncertainty, and the way we manage that may lead us to be not credible in some situations. People reading that will believe that we are a bunch of nuts that know nothing about what they are talking about. It has also to be integrative. That means provide added value. So at the end of this process, if the document do not allow us and all the users of this document to learn something, to gain something, probably we miss the target. So why an assessment of marine coast? First of all, in Canada, we have 200,000 kilometers of marine coast. And there was a previous assessment, as an example, the 2008 assessment was talking about coastal issues. But I guess most people that are working on the coast know that we need something that is specific for coastal zone. And also we have to address problems that are touching a large variety of populations, going from First Nations all the way to engineers that are politicians. And so we really have to produce a document like this one. Also because there is a lot of disparity in the way that each provinces of Canada are using coastal information. So it's probably a very good idea to try to figure out who is doing what and how, and try to find some common ground to work on and learn from each other. One key factor that we will be looking at is the sea level rise that is touching all of us. And we can see that the sea level rise is particularly a good example of uncertainty. and it's producing this document is an opportunity to try to agree on some numbers. Because if you look at the typical graphics, it seems that nobody agree about anything on that. So we have to find out. It's done in other countries. The France have adopted numbers, and they decided that they will work with these numbers. They know they are not perfect. They may change with time, but they decided that it's a good idea to do it this way. And you can imagine in Canada, if New Brunswick is taking one number, and next door Quebec is taking another number, and Nova Scotia another one, our credibility is plunging, literally. So we have to pay attention to these things. So this is an opportunity to look at these things. There is a large number of sources of information. So I think Don just put here a few examples. As an example, there is this document. I have a problem to read that. It's
What's the sensitivity of coasts of Canada to sea level rise?
yeah.
That's John Shaw and all.
John Shaw, that's it. I was not able to see the names of the authors. So we have documents, we have a number of studies, there is a lot of gray literature, and also there is all the knowledge that is in the mind of people that are working on the coast. And if we add to this traditional knowledge, because in some area this is the best source of information, very often people who have been living there for many generations, even if there is no written record, they know a lot about their coast. So we can also use some of these information. Sometimes it's collected during various type of studies. So we have to take advantage of everything we can use, and we have to update what is actually currently used as much as possible. There is actually the AR5, the fifth report of the IPCC that is being prepared, and it should be available soon. There is a large number of new simulations, CMIP5 simulations that are being put on the ground, which are now integrating the carbon cycle, and it can make a very big difference. New projections, better understanding of glacial dynamics. There was quite a lot of progress done on that. So whatever we can find that is helping us to have a critical view about what exists. We can, as an example, the IPCC fourth report is now on some points almost obsolete, and some of the statements are not right anymore. So we have to be at the tip point of science on that. We can also take this opportunity to consolidate some data foundation. As an example, there was this assessment of coastal vulnerability. Is it still valid? Do we have new data that can help us to improve these things? So this is something that can be done. And this is a starting point to discussion of the coastal zone assessment. Is if we want to understand as clearly as possible the implication of climate change, including sea level rise, but other like ice disappearance or change in the seasonal conditions, more rains, deltaic conditions, things like that in many areas. We need to go through a process like that. It's a good opportunity to do that. It's also an opportunity to consolidate and give a better access to stakeholders and users to biophysical, socioeconomical information, and also to put together the relevant decision-making information to adapt in coastal area. Probably one way to do that is to highlight successful example of adaptation and sometimes use the failure if we, without pointing anyone, but sometimes there is things that are not very useful. So we have to be aware of that. So there was the first outline of the coastal assessment who was prepared during preceding meetings, and this is, you can see an initial draft outline or table of content of this. Basically, the idea would be that there will be a general document that will cover the topic for Canada. All the things that are relevant across Canada will be discussed in these three first chapters. And the chapter 4 to 6 will be more regional. So they will focus more on things that are relevant in one specific region than another. So Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic. Arctic will probably include Hudson Bay, because Hudson Bay do not fit anywhere otherwise. And there will be a synthesis and some conclusions. We're going to use in this document case studies. So we will try to find the most relevant case studies to illustrate with the example how the coastal zone will be affected by climate change, but also what we can do to adapt. So it's part of the general idea. So organization involved the various federal government departments.